everybody. It's a privilege on behalf of the Omega management to welcome you here in Frankfurt. I think we'll have an incredible day. We have a living legend with us, Charlie, his wife, Dorothy, welcome. The other legend that everybody knows also, of course, is Robert Jan. Welcome to you, and I give you now the microphone.
So welcome all of you. In 2012 I started Speedy Tuesday. I said I don't want to repeat the story over and over again. I think you all know that I sold my car to be able to purchase my first Speedmaster, which grew to collecting Speedmasters. And whether you have one watch or tens of dozens or some even have hundreds of Speedmasters, I think everyone is just as welcome here at these events and making a great party out of it. Then I would like to ask Charlie to come on the stage.
Well, welcome everyone. It's my wife and I are delighted to be here at Speedy Tuesday. It's our first event. It was my first and only time to get into space. But if you're only going to go once, landing on the moon was the best flight you could have. And so we got on board the Saturn V and we were strapped in, and everybody, what did you feel like? Well, your emotions were, let's go. I'm ready, let's go. Keep counting. And sure enough, they kept counting, and at T0, T-minus 8 seconds, they started the engines, and at T0, if everything worked right, launch control said commit. They released it, and you were on your way. It was very slow at first. You couldn't hear any noise, though. But we had a vibration, and the vibration was from side to side, and it really shook. And so if it shook from side to side, you can imagine as it shook down here a little bit, by the time it got up to the top, it was a real vibration. And that was the only thing I remember from liftoff, was the slow acceleration and the vibration. The noise, we had our helmets on and communication hats, and so the noise I remember is us breathing and the oxygen flow and the communication, us talking back and forth to mission control. And I landed on a place called Descartes, which was southwest of where Neil Armstrong had landed, in the Sea of Tranquility, to what we call the Lunar Highlands. So it was very important geologically, and we had trained to find volcanic rocks up there, because that's what they all were in the Mare. John and I had a great time on the moon. It was 71 hours. And we were so excited and having so much fun, we didn't want to come back. We were ready. We were arguing for another 2 hours, but they said since we were 6 hours late landing, we consumed a lot of power, and so they were getting concerned about power supplies, and so they made us lift off. They wouldn't give us 2 more hours. And I felt right at home on the moon. It was a beautiful place. Buzz Aldrin called it magnificent desolation, and that's exactly what it was. It was the most beautiful desert I'd ever seen, untouched and spoiled. So you had wonder. It was just a wonder. I'm on the moon, and excitement and enthusiasm and just all these emotions that you can imagine you're having. I'm on the moon, and that kept hitting me. Nobody's ever been here before. John and I are on this spot, and we had this car we drove called the Lunar Rover. He drove it, and I navigated. Everybody asked, what was it like driving on the moon? I said, well, I can't tell you. He wouldn't let me drive it. It was a great experience for me, and so I was very fortunate to be the 10th man on the moon, and I was the youngest, and now 47 years later, I'm still the youngest.
We'll do a Q&A. I promise I'll keep it as short as possible. How important was the Speedmaster for you? You already spoke a bit about the stopwatch function.
Well, of course, we kept time. In space, there's no night on the way to the moon, so how do you keep time? We had a clock in the spacecraft that started at liftoff. It starts counting up at 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and your flight plan is based on that clock. So I kept my watch on Houston time. The importance of the Speedmaster was that stopwatch, and it was really, really important that I time the burns accurately, because if the computer, as I said, if the computer didn't shut it down automatically, we used the watch to back it up. And for instance, on re-entry, Mission Control told us when re-entry would start, and let's say 2 minutes later, we would have a rollover. Apollo didn't have wings like Space Shuttle, but it had lift like an airplane. The center of gravity was offset from the center of the heat shield. So as you came in with a lift vector up like an airplane. And so when it dug into the atmosphere, it wanted to come back out again, and we called it skip out. And if you allowed that to happen, you were lost, and there was no recovery.
Jean-Claude, you told me yesterday the year you were born, I think by accident. So you witnessed the moon landing perhaps, and some other missions. What are your recollections of the space program moon landings?
You know, in 1969 I saw, of course, the adventure of Apollo 11. And with all my friends at school, everybody wanted to be an astronaut.
Powering down on the lunar surface was a thoughtful process, I guess you would say. Do we really want to do this? But we knew if we wanted to stay for the 3 days, we had to do it, power down. Well, thank you very much. We've enjoyed it very much. Dorothy and I are always delighted to be here. Thanks for coming. RJ, thank you for organizing these events. I'm glad to be part of Speedy Tuesday, and hopefully get to do it again sometime around the world.
Thank you very much.
Bless you. Thank you.
Ja, die ist. Wenn die Kippen.